remember in school when they used to have like those big, I don't even know what they are, but like you'd like flap it up in the air and it was like
Yes.
multicolored.
The canvas thing. Yeah, parachute.
Yeah.
Fucking
I
love
don't even
that
know
one.
what the point of that is, but like it was just the
Magic.
most. It was magical.
Did
was
did
really,
I tell
really
you
fun.
about the maypole that we used to do at school? This is a very British thing, though. The maypole it's like a fertility thing that's come from pagan times, and you have a pole with ribbons from it like hanging from the top, and you have to dance to some accordion music, obviously. And you've got a little bell, like safety pin to your socks, so that you jingle when you're dancing, and you dance around each other, and it like spreads the I think the ribbons are supposed to represent cum, because then you've got like two people sit at the bottom
Yeah.
to hold the pole, right?
I see.
No,
It's kind of like
I don't
Midsummer,
see.
Not a Milton Keynes thing. We did it in Yorkshire. It was bloody Yorkshire.
Interesting.
I'm gonna.
I
Find
did
a
see that in
picture.
Midsummer actually.
I see the
Maypole.
part too where she was pushing his buttocks when he was. That was one of the worst parts.
I hate
Yeah.
Midsummer so
It's so
much.
uncomfortable, but I do think the colors in it are really beautiful. So when I was drawing the other day, I put it on in the background. Can you imagine Midsummer in the background?
No,
And
that's
she's like
such a...
crying and screaming. I'm like turning the volume down.
Oh my god, I really.
It's
Oh.
a crazy one.
It is beautiful though. It's got nice color and
Yeah.
very bright and vibrant, but
It
good
makes you
lord.
feel like you're outside as well.
What a
it's
great
immersive.
experience for a gamer. Makes you
feel
feel
it.
like you're outside. I could almost touch the grass.
I can smell it. The grass.
Maples
I
were
can
erected
almost-
simply as signs that the happy season of warmth and comfort had returned.
I feel like I would be bored doing the maypole because I'm like, so you're telling me I can't swing from this rope and there's not a ball attached to it? Then what even is the point?
Yeah, I'd try to like, grab onto the pole or something, or try to swing around it.
One of the,
I'd get very bored just
dancing
going
with
around.
a ribbon.
dancing
Yeah.
around a pole. No, it was really fucking good. I loved it.
It's like a little cult thing or something.
yeah, it was
For sure.
Like the pagans did it, and then it's also known in Norse paganism. Cosmological views held that the universe was a world tree, and then some observers have proposed phallic symbolism.
Of course. Well, if there's two
take them
people
back
at
to
the bottom of
Roman-
a shaft.
The Roman worship of Priapus.
That guy's pretty cool.
Yeah,
He's the one that's got the erect penis at all times. Priapus.
love that guy.
What a Chad.
They used to put him at, like, they put statues of him at crossroads with just his, like, so it's like, you could go left or you could go right, but here's a guy with an erect penis. It's just
How did
Right
they
in the
know
middle.
he was erect all the time? Did he just like cock
he was
out
a-
all the time?
he was a symbol of fertility, which of course they're like, what fertility come from? Ah, yes, big stiff penis.
Very, very wet lady.
Very wet lady.
Can you
If
imagine?
She was a goddess.
Hmm.
Then
Imagine.
you'd be really hard to carve that though. So they had to go with
Slippery statue.
Just very
them
lubed
statues
up
that-
statue.
them statues that cry because like they're like a holy symbol. Like, oh, it's the Virgin Mary that's crying. She's crying from somewhere else.
Well, if there was like a place that was like eyeballs, I feel like they could.
Yep, she's fertile. She's one of them fertiles. you
And then
just
you
see
get them
like,
fountains with the little lads peeing.
That stuff is
oh
weird
wait,
to
that
me.
could, it could just come from down. Yeah, the water could just
A
stream out.
squatting lady, just a lady squat next to a tree as a statue.
I'm gonna have to carve this. I'm gonna have to like take up like sculpting.
Just
and do
for
for
this.
for a garden, just to sculpt a lady squatting and then put a hose pipe through.
Like, what were you saying, G? Can you imagine about Priapus? I think.
Well, I mean, it's like, how did they know he was so like erect and erect all the time? Did he just was his cock out constantly?
I think they were like, how do we depict someone who's going to get you pregnant?
Jesus.
So they just gave him a big erect penis.
Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. They're like, this will do the job. This will do the
Sends
job.
a strong message. That's for sure.
I think one of my favorite things about like Greek history is that men would have these parties where they would all lie down on these couches that were just like, they're like those fainting couches, right? But they weren't fainting on them. So they're all lying down on those together. And then they're being served wine and meat. And then they have prostitutes come in and dance. But then the men just have sex with each other instead.
Stop. What the fuck?
Yes,
Boys would be boys.
that's
Boys
just,
would
that's
be
just loving
boys.
life. That's just loving life. I don't.
But usually it was like, so they were like, they didn't like the idea of actually having like gay sex. So to get around that, they would just basically like fuck the space between each other's thighs because they're like, this isn't gay. This isn't gay.
That's what prostitutes in like Victorian, like London used to do. Like
To not get pregnant.
Well, yeah, if they didn't like a bloke, they'd just like pretend.
Oh, I see. Of course, it is pretty easy too.
Well, especially if they're drunk, they don't know any better.
Yeah. About dominance then not being gay. Well, they had the thing where it was like, I'm your mentor, so I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff, but it also means I get to fuck you. Which is
Why
like,
are
wait a
men-
second, I just wanted to learn how to carve a chair from wood.
I
Oh,
wanted to
I'll
learn
show
how.
ya.
I wanted to learn how to sculpt a squatting lady.
I'm
Now I
gonna
get
carve
this.
those.
Did women ever do
Sympathize.
these things? Did they ever anything as weird? That's kind of weird, bro. That's kind
I
of
feel
weird.
like maybe a long time ago, before it was more like women being subservient, maybe. But it would be interesting to look into because I don't think there's like examples of, you know, because basically while the men were having these parties, the women were at home taking care of the house and stuff.
Of course.
Female Spartans, maybe that. And I think if the women were acting like that, it meant that they were under the influence of like Dionysus or something and that they were crazy. So they'd be like, it would be like, there's like a story of one of them where all the women went out onto this is what I want to do with you guys. All the women went out onto a mountain and they danced naked and they drank a whole bunch of wine and then they just hunted a bunch of animals. And went
I like how she
crazy.
started that off with, I want to do this with you
Not
guys.
the hunting part, but the dancing naked and drinking wine.
Of course.
I mean, if you're down for a good time, I'm not gonna say no.
your birthday's
It's
coming up,
platonic.
Boba. Your birthday's coming up.
Right? Oh my god. Can you imagine if I sent you this
Mountain.
invitation to my birthday party?
Nudist mountain party.
Nudist mountain party.
I want to do that. That'd be fucking great.
I don't think it's that. I think like if you're just, I don't know. I think platonic cuddling should be a thing, and I think if you want to with I guess it
Some
already is
people
a
are just
thing.
too horny though, Boba.
I know. I'd probably be like, you know what? If I saw my friend's boobs, I'd just be like, those are my friend's boobs. I wouldn't be like, oh, my friend's boobs.
Well, it's
I
like
love
if you see anybody, you know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. That's why nudists have such a nice time. It's not a sexy thing.
Yeah, and most of the time when you go to a nudist resort, everyone's old as fuck, because I have been to one and they were all very old and everything was hanging. Just everything.
It's because it's like I don't give a shit anymore. I'm like 78, and you know,
Yeah.
I don't need to wear clothes.
They've
anymore.
lost the sense of dignity. It doesn't exist anymore, but you don't need it because you're like,
No.
I'm old now. It doesn't matter, you know?
I don't have any dignity anyway. So
There
it's
you
pretty
go.
cool.